if I start to hit this man, they'll have to kill me.
All right,
All right.
let's go, man. It's you and me, Baxter. Nobody else is on the call on time.
That's what it's looking like.
Yeah, I can count on you showing up. Let's go. Spend some time putting this together tonight too, because tax season is coming up. I want to make sure people have access to being prepared. Just being prepared, but prospering in tax season. All right, so we're actually going to go ahead and get this started. Hopefully people join the call live because this wants to be an engaging, I like interactive calls and being engaging with people so that the things we talk about land and are reinforced, so let's go, man. By the way, you can see my screen here, correct? PowerPoint.
Yeah, I can see. I see the truck above you and you with your arms crossed. Yeah.
Good. All right. So let's get started. That's me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you know who I am. This is how you reach me, all the ways. Of course, we do all these things now on a subscription basis. And quick disclaimer before we get started. Following this for educational purposes only and is not to be considered financial, accounting, or legal advice. Please consult your tax accounting and or legal professional for specific advice. And of course, there's a promise that I make here for you guys each and every week is you're going to gain at least one thing that will help you survive and thrive in trucking. And number two, you'll have a whole new level of clarity on actions that you can take over and over. Again, that will make the most difference and the most impact in your business. That is a promise. So today, we're going to pivot a little bit and talk about taxes and tax strategy, really. It's almost that time, people. If you didn't know, we're coming up on the end of the third quarter of the year. And the fourth quarter is upon us. Tax season's coming up fast. Are you ready? Is what I want to ask. Want to make sure we're doing everything possible in our power as entrepreneurs, business owners, especially in the trucking industry, to safeguard yourself so that you get to keep your hard-earned money. Some people think that tax strategy and tax time is once a year. In actuality, this is an all-year process. This is a game plan. It's like we're in the regular season during the year, and then, come April, when March and April for business owners, it's like playoffs. Right? That's all that is. That's like playoffs. Then you get a little break and go right back at it for the next season. That's how you want to look at this. And we're going to talk about this tonight inside of our conversation. First off, posing the question, do you have a tax strategy for 2023? Do you have one? Did you create one? If you have created one, let me put a 1 in the chat. If you have not created one, put a 2 in the chat. Give you about 30 seconds to go ahead and do that. So if you have a strategy, tax strategy for 2023, you want to go ahead and put a 1 in the chat. And if you have not created one for 2023, put a 2 in the chat. Okay, good. Got some mixed answers here. Fantastic. Charlene, you're good. Good deal. Got a tax strategy put in place. Fantastic. Awesome. Now, The next thing is, good, thank you, Derek. The next thing is, if you do have a tax strategy in place, and I'm not referring, Charlene, to a growth strategy plan. That's more in line, like you always want to have a strategy for growth, and like it's in terms of like a business plan. Like what are you actually going to be doing out here each day to make sure you're moving in a upward trajectory inside of business and in life, right? That's good to have. And tax strategy is a different beast, because if you didn't know, like your top expense in life for the most part, number one.
Okay, let me try to call them now. He's not on. Oh,
Yeah, I got you, Teresa. You're off mute. Yeah, number one expense that you're going to face is going to be taxes in a lifetime. All right, so good. I got that. So that's clear. So really, a tax strategy reduces your overall exposure to income taxes, not just income taxes, but all taxes in general. Right? If you're not aware, if you're not creating a plan, then you're going to be a reaction to the situation. And when that happens, you're going to get things that you really don't like inside of this area. You're going to overspend. You're going to wonder why. I was just on a call with somebody today, and they're talking about, man, I just got off the phone with the state revenue department. I got off the phone with the IRS, and this is previous year taxes owed. And it's like, I can't do anything about it. They told me it's like they can't really reduce anything or give me any advice on how to reduce that bill. And I really want that bill to go away. I felt it, man. I felt this pain. I was like, man, I know it stinks. It sucks. Now, the thing that we can do is look at that year and look at the behaviors and file an amendment based on what happened in reality, because there may have been some things there that he was missing out on. And we actually did that. We found some things that he was missing out on, and it reduced what he actually owed through an amendment. And at the same time, what's done is done. We cannot go back into the past and change our behaviors and say, okay, now I want to be, less exposed to taxes. It's already too late. What's done is done. And if you didn't have a plan in place before what's done has been done, then you most likely are going to be leaving a lot of money on the table. In terms of deductions, in terms of tax credits, in terms of entity review and classification, in terms of retirement strategy, in terms of your hiring strategy and practices, and how, like, what you're spending money on, accountable plans, and down the line. Like, all these things come into the framework of overall tax strategy. If we don't have that clear, then we're going to be leaving money on the table. Somebody came to me, they called me, it was a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. Somebody I've been working with, and we just started working with them a couple of years ago, but they had some things going on for many years back, for which they did not own up to. And the IRS had showed up at their office, so that's why they called me and said, "Hey, man, the IRS just showed up in my office. I'm on my way there. Can you help me?" Right? It's like, okay, yeah. I was like, yeah, we can help you. What's going on? Right? So he told me what was going down. He hadn't paid any payroll tax since 2018. He hadn't filed. And he hadn't filed the taxes since 2018. And now everything was coming to a head. So there's nothing we can do about the past, but we could alleviate some of the suffering. He owed more than $1 million in taxes for that. How about that? IRS shows up at your office and says, "Hey, look, you owe $1.2 million. You got to pay us right now." Right? He's like, "Oh, you can't pay right now? Okay, we'll give you about 2 weeks. Pay us in 2 weeks." Right? And that was his situation. And we ended up helping him out a little bit, but there's nothing that we can do about what has been done. We can go back and amend some things. We ended up saving him about $950,000, $970,000 or something like that. So he didn't have to pay all of it. Right? But at the same time, if we don't have a proactive strategy in place, we're going to experience pains, right? These are pains that you don't want to experience. There are outward pains, like obvious pains, like what he went through. You know, the IRS shows up at your office and now there's nothing you can do but, you know, be at the mercy of what they are saying. But then there are like background pains, like you don't know exactly what you're leaving on the table. You just feel as though you're working a whole lot. This is the conversation I had earlier today. You're working a whole lot and it seems like everybody else gets paid but you. At least you're not getting compensated enough for what you do. And those things are, we can take actionable strategies and make sure that that's not going to be the case for you. Like moving forward, you can alleviate that. You can have more mastery, more control in this area if you just treated it like a business. And in and of itself, just understand where you are, position-wise, structure-wise, legacy-wise, like inheritance-wise, all these things, like protection-wise. Those things make a difference inside of how much money you get to keep. If you didn't realize that there's a game that we play in this country, and if you're not inside the game, like consciously, it doesn't matter. You're still in the game. You're just not playing it well. You're on the bench. You're still losing. But now you have a chance when you create a strategy to get on the court and actually make a difference in your life in this area. Okay. So if you do have a plan, are you executing on that plan? So nobody really has a plan here. So let's go to the next question. Back here. Now, if you don't have a plan, can you get one created before the end of the year? And why do I say that? Is because when the year is over, it's basically too late. There aren't too many things you can do after December 31st. There's only a couple of things you can do, but there are not too many things you can do after December 31st. So you want to get a plan in effect so that you're going to maximize your tax position. You know, optimize your taxes so you're not overspending. So here's the thing, like when you're early on in business, this may not be as important to you because you're not making enough money for this to warrant a real effective strategy. Now, when you start making some money, when you start netting profit somewhere around $35,000, $40,000 a year, now you want to be in this conversation. Okay, what do I need to do? Because I'm actually projecting to make some money in my business. And I need to make sure I'm not overspending in these taxes. So now you want to create some type of actionable strategy and then follow through, execute. Okay. And the answer to that question is, of course, you can create one before the end of the year. You can do that. And the question that you want to ask yourself is, well, what are my next actions to do that? You know, how do I create this strategy? And then you want to get to the mindset that this is something that I want to take on fully and completely. I'm going to be 100% responsible for it, making sure I'm not going to be overexposed. And that's going to ensure that you're going to follow through with the actions that you take because you're creating the strategy intentionally with integrity. So let's talk strategy. Big deal inside the trucking industry are asset purchases. We need assets in this industry in order to run the business. And because of that, there are benefits to being able to deduct things via depreciation, bonus depreciation, Section 179 depreciation, and so on. We have accelerated depreciation that we can take advantage of. And what's going to be the right thing for you inside of your situation? Now, this approach, it's really dependent on your unique situation. Like when I talk about unique situation, well, how much income are you generating this year? How much do you plan on generating next year and in the future years? Based on the goals and the vision of the company, these are things that you want to have in mind. Now, if you are making a considerable sum this year and you really don't want to have that exposure to taxes, then you want to make sure that you're positioned to take advantage of accelerated depreciation. And if you're going to be purchasing assets on a consistent basis year after year after year, this will be a really good strategy to lean in on to make sure you're not going to be overspending in taxes. Now, the big thing here is that when you buy assets, you purchase assets, and they perform, this is really, really good. Okay. What do I mean by perform? Anybody know what I mean by when I say when you buy assets and they actually perform? Pop quiz on that.
That they actually start generating revenue.
You got it, brother. You got it. They generate revenue. Not just that, but they generate profitability as well. A lot of assets may generate revenue, okay, but then there may be a burden on profitability. For example, if you have a truck that requires a lot of maintenance, it's always down. It does generate revenue, but it costs a lot to maintain. It costs a lot to run, and like maybe it runs and it consumes a lot of fuel for you, or burns oil, or something like that. Well, now it's costing you more than another truck that doesn't do the same thing, although it may be generating the same amount of revenue. It's not really down, but it has these things going on with it that actually cause it to underperform maintenance wise. All right, these are the things we want to watch. So asset purchases, you really want to have an understanding of what's going to have you perform inside a business versus what's not. And why it's important to understand the strategy when it comes to taxes, because I can get a deduction for this purchase, you know, and I'm not directly injecting all my own cash in this thing. A lot of the times I'm financing a vehicle or financing equipment, and it's still going to perform and generate revenue. So it really didn't come out of my pocket, but I can get the accelerated depreciation, which means I deduct a lot of the expense in the earlier years. Okay. And it's able to produce profitability, which just means it's performing well. So just gave you something you can hone in on this to make sure that you're actually improving the efficiency of your business and operation. Okay. Other things that a lot of times we talk about these things at the end of the year, like things like asset purchases. We talk about this at the end of the year because it's coming to a close and we're gauging how much we're going to make for the year total. Along with that comes retirement contribution. Now, if you don't have retirement set up through your business, then you're missing out on, you know, deferred income tax benefits. You can defer that to your retirement and save a lot on your tax, especially if you have a qualified plan. A lot of these plans you can max out especially if you are a solopreneur, which means you're not having a heavy employee base. You can max it out a whole lot for yourself because there's nothing to compare that to, no other employee to compare that to. So there really aren't any restrictions in how much you can max it out. Now, if you are employee heavy, it's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing too, to maximize these programs, because you are, you know, spending these out on wages and matching the employee contribution to whatever level, and it's still reducing your overall net income. At the same time, improving other areas of your business, like retention and loyalty from the employees. They actually feel good when they work with you. So it's all a part of the compensation anyway. You're going to be spending that money anyway. So you might as well have that plan there so you can defer the income, or really write that whole income off for your employees. And this strategy, a lot of times, I mean, I said before, most of the things you really can't do a whole lot after December 31st is what I said earlier. This is one of those things that you can do after December 31st. Depending on what the final numbers are, you can make that choice and say, okay, I just don't want to spend this much in taxes because I have this much left over. I can put this into my retirement. Okay. Now, when the boots hit the ground, like boots to pavement type stuff. And when I say that, I mean, well, how does it really apply out here in reality when I do it? Those are some things that you really can't conceptualize until you go through it, like how you apply it. There's a lot of things in life that I've understood conceptually, and the application of it, how to implement it, like through the day-to-day, there's a new curve of learning to where it's actually going to fit, like the puzzle piece that's missing inside of your business that you want to work out. Some of those things you're going to have to do on your own to work it out, but you really want to have somebody in your corner that understands these things so that you're not on your own. You can actually step-by-step do this in a way that works, and make sure that you have enough to support your own personal financial needs, while decreasing your exposure to taxes and putting that money there for your future, your financial future in terms of retirement. Deferred income strategies. Maybe you're making too much this year, want to defer it to next year. Now, most of you are operating on a cash basis, so this would be something that you would have to really consider. Because we can, like if you're doing accrual basis accounting, like which is generally accepted accounting principles and what you really want to get to eventually, then this strategy will work really well. You can claim this income in the next year and not really claim it in the current year. Even if you're cash basis accounting, they still make it work. Okay. But you want to have your accounting processes on point to be able to identify the opportunities here to do this. What I found is a lot of people don't, especially small entrepreneurs, small business owners. Okay. So you want to make sure that you do have these processes in place to ensure that you know where you stand when it comes to these types of decisions. Or am I going to take this income now? I'm going to put this over into 2024. Okay. And of course, the strategies for hiring. And a lot of times we can, if we have families, we can hire our kids in certain situations. Well, how much am I going to be able to reasonably pay my children in wages based on the profitability of the company? You want to have these things in mind. And really, the important thing is what I said earlier. We want to have this understanding all year round. Like, what am I doing this month? What am I doing, last month versus next month, this quarter, next quarter? What have I really done? What am I doing? What is the game plan? What do I expect? All these things you want to have a real good pulse on. You want to have your hand on that pulse to know exactly where you stand so that you can make these choices on like throughout the year. Okay, I made this much, so I'm going to pay my kids this much. So now I'm not going to have to, pay for their band lessons. They can pay for their band lessons themselves. I just pay them for what they did for my company. Right. So we have those things available, or, pay for their summer school. Oh, you pay for that yourself. I paid you through the company, so you pay for your summer school yourself. Okay. You pay for, or your summer camp rather yourself. You pay for all your extracurriculars, a lot of different things that you would pay normally for your kids. You can just pay them a wage and then deduct that and have them just pay out of what you paid them. Not only that, like as far as hiring strategies are concerned, there's so many benefits and incentives to hiring certain demographics. You want to understand what those are so that you can go out there and hire people strategically to reduce your tax burden or even put money into your pocket through credits. Okay. Who can I hire in the last quarter of the year that would put money in my pocket is a good question to ask. And then, of course, reclassification of entities. You want to review your structures to make sure you're set up to win inside of them. What do I want to be? Do I want to continue to be a single member LLC and taxed as a sole proprietor this year versus moving into an S corp versus being a partnership? Do I want to establish some type of trust to run things through that as far as asset protection is concerned? Right, what type of asset protection plan do I have in place to make sure my assets are protected and willable, right? And shielded from income tax. Charitable trusts, all those, these are another thing that's coming to mind, like charities. Like, what are you giving out to charity and everything else? Like, what is your donation strategy? Right? What types of plans do you have around growing this asset base through that trust? Maybe you're purchasing real estate. Maybe you're thinking about that even inside of what you're doing in trucking. Like, how can I transfer these funds into another wealth building strategy? Or you want to start looking at what entities, what structures are beneficial to being able to accomplish those goals. So we're talking about planning all year long. excuse me, when we talk about planning all year long, and we already discussed a little bit about performance, we want to be in the know when it comes to profitability and net profit. Most of these last few sessions, these last couple of months that we've been talking, we've been spending time in financial statements, talking about the different financial statements and how they impact your business, or how your business impacts them rather, and then how to have financial literacy inside of these financial statements, what they mean. And you really want to use the information that we learned in these sessions to realize, well, what is it that I did profitability wise this month? Really right now, what am I doing? If I have this understood, then we can also understand, well, what's going to be the next action to reduce the overall tax exposure? Is there enough there for me to actually create another strategy? Or should I focus on the strategy that we already have in place? It's always good to do the latter, by the way. Like if you create a strategy, really simply, like if you create one thing, the idea is to really do that one thing and master that one thing. And then once that's done, you can move on to another thing. We can add that on. Okay. Otherwise, if you have too much, then you have nothing. If you have too many things, then you have no thing. That's just really how the human mind processes things. Like even tonight, I'm giving you information about tax strategy, but all the things I'm giving you, if you could take just one thing and run with it, then that's going to be the thing that, breaks life through for you. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole lot of information and be paralyzed because you don't know what to do next. But the focus is the thing that you really want to get out of anything that we do here. Okay. Now, you can see that we're building on information here. The profitability of the company really comes down to your understanding of the financial statements, which is financial literacy. And if you're on top of that day in and day out, week by week, month by month, then you'll know where your business stands in terms of profit. This is a big deal because now we can say, okay, what is it? What else can I deduct? If I need to deduct something, oh man, I've been paying myself too much in wages this year. I can send out messages to people. I mean, some people don't even, are not even on an engagement for this thing, right? But if I see something, I'll let people know, hey, look, you might want to cut back on your wages. Right? Yeah, sitting there paying yourself too much now. You're just defeating the purpose of the whole structure to pay yourself more now. Because your business is not doing as the profitability of your business is not enough to warrant you taking all these wages, especially as an S corp. Right. So you want to know that so that you can make those pivot by pivot, moment by moment decisions inside of your business. Otherwise, you're going to keep doing things on autopilot and you're not really going to get the benefit. You're not really going to save in taxes. You're still going to experience a level of pain. You're going to throw money away, leave money on the table. Okay. So we talk about things like this, like profitability and everything that we do. It really comes down to organization. A lot of times we think like we have what we have, but the organization is just not there, right? Look at this guy. Some of you guys operate like this. We got all these papers and everything, and it's like, where do I keep my receipts? Where are my bills at? What did I make profitability wise? Let me just go over here to this spreadsheet, this piece of paper. Man, where was that thing? Right? Some of us operate like that out here in real life, and it doesn't really serve. We want to be on top of things organizationally so that we can have this information in front of us and make our choices on the fly. And those people who are able to pivot quickly in life are the ones who win. That's just how it's always been. We talk about survival of the fittest. Those who are able to adapt are the ones that survive. That's the gene pool that moves forward in the world. The ones who adapt, whether it's human beings, animals, whatever. How adaptable are you? And that really comes down to your ability to make those pivots, which is an adaptation in and of itself. Hopefully that makes sense. We want to be out here with that and make these choices on the fly. And if you're this guy, most likely you're not making choices on the fly because you got to figure out where things are. Okay. Well, how do you do that? How do you figure out where things are consistently, reliably when it comes to profitability, for one? Because we're in the talk now, we're talking about profitability. We want to know how we keep that information at our fingertips so that we can make these choices for our tax exposure throughout the year. So how do we do that? Well, we're doing something on October 8th. We're doing a QuickBooks boot camp. I'm gonna start doing this more regularly for people, okay? So they can understand how to navigate this technology so that they can have that information at their fingertips all the time. They know how to have the workflows in place, like automation and everything. And by the way, let me just go ahead and do this real quick, just in case you guys want to register for that thing. Pull up this registration link. And put this in the chat for us. But you can register for that boot camp. It is a paid boot camp, just because we want to keep the environment as such, sort of like this. You know, we keep it like real close and serious for the people who really want to get something out of this part of their business. This boot camp is usually it's going to be on a Sunday. Charlene, but that's a good question. I was contemplating on when we were going to do these things. Like I was thinking maybe change it to a weekday where people can get on. And I don't know what's going to work. Most likely, I know that this works for me because I've already blocked out that time for being able to do things like this, right? And if it comes down to it, and we have and it makes sense, yeah, I'll create something during the week. Just depends on how it goes and how the performance is on that webinar, who's showing up and who has complications showing up for that webinar. I figure a Sunday afternoon, late in a Sunday afternoon, most people are at home where they can get on their computer and be with me for 2.5 hours. That's how long that's going to be. That's going to be from 3 p.m. Eastern time to 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to do a dive into QuickBooks and how to demystify that thing and make it simple, make it clear, give you like workflows and automations and everything inside of that software so that you can have this, what we're talking about, this clarity. You don't need to go anywhere else, but you can navigate that thing so that you can have all the information you need on your business financially, which is what we're talking about today. Okay. So why QuickBooks Online? Automation, a lot of the things, like we just saw that guy, he's running around with these papers and everything, file cabinets and stacks of papers around the office, file folders. He doesn't know what's in those file folders, right? But automation, you can enter these transactions without entering them. You know, you don't have to enter all the details in your transactions. You can automate a lot of that process. And not only that, there's another part of that where you could, you know, send invoices. Like you have your brokers, they want an invoice. I mean, you send them, you print them out from here, and it just ties it into all of your financials anyway. So you can start doing a workflow here where you create the invoices, print them out, and send them over to your brokers. Right? Not just print them out, but save them as a PDF file inside of your workflow so that you can send that over to your broker. And then everything can be organized there too. Like all your documents can be attached to those invoices so that they have them. Okay. So we have the automation, organization as well. We're talking a little bit about that, how to organize documents and everything that go along with it. Receipts are a big deal. So everybody, like, you get a whole lot of paper and receipts when you're out here operating a trucking company, and you want to make sure you're keeping track of all those things. This makes it easy. You can upload receipts, you can email receipts to your QuickBooks account, and they just come in and they can attach to whatever transaction. It'll even find the match if it's already there existing on the books from the automation that you already have. It'll find the match in the process so that you don't have to even go there and keep track of those so much. Okay. And other documents like your rate cons and everything, you can attach those to your invoices. You can upload those things so you can have a lot of information stored forever. You don't understand, like, maybe you do. Yeah, I'm gonna stop saying you don't understand because most likely you do. You've been dealing with this thing, right? The thing that I'm thinking about others that they deal with. I don't deal with so much because I have systems like this in my life to where I can just grab things and it makes it seem like I'm doing so many things, like I can do a lot, call it leverage. I do so much more than the average person in a day. Some people may think it's mind-boggling. How'd you get all that done? I was talking to my team about some of the things I did on one of our meetings last week. I did it the day before. I was like, man, yeah. I actually took on doing some cleanup projects myself. I wasn't, a lot of times I don't do cleanup projects on my own. I've been doing them recently just to push them through and make sure we get new business in the door because we're taking on more clients with increasing sales and everything. So I was able to take on like 2 years of cleanup, still doing everything else I did, make every other meeting. I do some coaching and everything on the side, make all my coaching meetings and leadership calls for that. All of the administrative functions, emails and everything I do, sales processes, build out marketing systems, websites. I did all of that in one day, And then people think it's like, well, how are you doing that? Well, it definitely comes down to leveraging organization. I have all these tools in order to keep everything in a flow. I'm always looking at how to do more with less. That's my philosophy on life. How can I do more with less? And it makes it seem like I'm able to do a lot more with my time during a day than others. And I'm still not where I want to be with that. But I realize a lot of people don't think this way, and then there's overwhelm. Case in point, somebody came to me on Friday to file their partnership return, right? they didn't want to get their partnership return filed. Some of that I dealt with in the past. By the way, I was able to do that too. Like file tax returns in the midst of that same day, doing the cleanup, 2 years of cleanup for somebody, filed 4 tax returns, did my marketing, stayed and made every meeting. All those things I did in one day, right? And they came to me and they were like, I need to get this partnership return filed. It's the deadline, extension deadlines on 15th, it's Friday. They don't have anything, right? They don't know where anything is. They can't find stuff. So many people are like that in life. They got to look around, they got to call banks, they got to figure out what it is. And I don't ever do that. I just go grab the thing and get it done because of organization. And if it's not organized, I'm a world that pulls for organization so that it'll eventually be organized in a way that works. All systems, right? So QuickBooks is one of those systems where you can keep things together in that way. It'll really reduce a lot of the time you spend in certain areas going back and forth because now you have a leverage point for organization. You can do more. Key thing here, financial reporting. That's what it provides. So I was on a conversation earlier today with somebody in the trucking industry, and they were really feeling the pains of like just not having enough cash to meet all of his obligations, right? But the guy wanted to quit. He's like, man, it sucks. I need to give up on this thing. And it's like, man, I don't know how to manage my cash. And I got all these things going out. I got so many expenses. I got this extra tax bill that just came in. It's going to be added on top of everything. And I was feeling it, man. I was feeling this pain. I was like, man, I know. It seems like everything that comes in, all the hard work that you put in, it goes to paying everybody else but you. Definitely understand what that's like, man. It's a hard place to be. And I was telling them that we never want to make decisions from a place of reaction, is what I said. We always want to make decisions from a place of reality. And a lot of times what we're thinking right now in terms of reaction emotionally is not the reality. We're in our head a lot. We need to bring it out here. We need to see things. We need to separate it. So financial reporting allows us to do that, to see exactly where we stand. So we was able to say, hey, look, man, just don't make a decision now. Let's look at the reports and see exactly where you stand. Fortunately, we were able to do his cleanup, and have that access to reports to see what he's doing. I was like, man, your business is actually performing well. That's not the issue. It's the personal side that's the issue. What do you need to do here? You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what he was going to do, throw the baby out with the bathwater, because we're all in our head about things. But what the financial reporting allows us to do is get outside of our head and get into reality. And then we can make real good decisions about life. Even inside of the performance of the financial reporting, we can look at how to improve things, even if they're going well. but QuickBooks will allow you to do that. So many different reports that you can create inside of QuickBooks to see the performance of business. Like we can look at it and analyze that several different ways to get out of it what we want as far as understanding is concerned. So that is a definite benefit to that. And then we have really good things here, streamlining of your W-2 filings and your 1099 filings. Man, I just felt that, even though I know that this is here, I just felt the alleviation of a lot of stress without trying to figure this thing out, right? Now you click a button with the people you pay, 1099, and all throughout the year, it just tracks it to say, okay, this is how much they got paid. And then come January 1st, you can just click another button and produce those reports. No time, no thought really needed there. Right, you just click one button at one time when they come on, click another button at the beginning of the year, and these things are taken care of. That's really what it allows you to do. And then the key thing here, cash flow forecasting and really cash flow analysis, this allows you to do that as well. Like if you understand all the components of QuickBooks, you can get in these little areas and really plan out your cash flow to make sure that you are managing things effectively. A lot of times what I'll see is, because we deal a lot with the entrepreneurs, small business owners, solopreneurs, they like to use the small business as an ATM. Not you guys are good. You don't use your business as an ATM. I know you're fiscally responsible. All right. You guys just don't go in your business and just take money out to pay for personal things. That wouldn't be you, right? But yeah, there is some money that we need to extract from our business throughout the year for our personal needs, and there are systems that we want to create for that. And a lot of times, if we're not mindful on the personal side will impact us on the business. So if we're not healthy financially, personally, then we can cause the business to be unhealthy because we're extracting too much in terms of cash flow. Whereas the business wants to be healthy and getting healthier as it moves forward in time, right? So it's building more and more cash reserves, it's building more and more asset base so that it can stand and sustain and thrive, okay? And a lot of times it can be a small tweak as far as, okay, I need to just manage my personal finances better. So I'm not pulling so much cash from my business, and my business and cash can keep improving. And what does that look like for you? That's what you want to ask yourself. And then, of course, budgeting, which goes hand in hand with that. Right, we create budgets. We can do that through QuickBooks. It can definitely help with that. And there's certain levels of subscriptions don't allow you to do budgeting. But in a lot of cases, even if that's not available on your subscription, it can help you with the budgeting process because you can see the patterns of your business financial performance, and you can work on some type of spreadsheet or export what you have to a spreadsheet to make sure something happens. Of course, it happens in the realm of the budget, rather, complete on that. And then the other thing is there are envelopes inside of QuickBooks which allow you to budget out things in addition to that. So it can manage inside of your cash flow management. So you can see that happening for yourself. So really, you have a lot of things in here to help you manage your business finances so that you're set up to win all around financially. Okay, you can really make some solid choices and have structures in place to where you can improve the way you're doing things as time moves forward. All right. Of course, we talked a little bit about this, like retirement planning. This is a real key thing that we want to take a look at when it comes to tax planning. Okay. And before we move on, like I said, a lot of stuff. Okay. I did say a lot of things about QuickBooks just now. And, I did talk a lot about income and deductions and different types of strategies we can use. And really as an overview of things, right? So I want to take a moment here to let that sink in and see if you guys have anything that you want to ask. You have anything you want to ask, come up. You can ask a question or you can put it in the chat so that you can get clear on some things that we've talked about today, because I am going pretty fast right now through these things. So I'll let you have about 90 seconds to do that right now. All right, so if you want to ask a question, We're going to do another Q&A at the end of this too. So if you don't have anything right now, it's okay. But if you're having something that's pending and it's on your mind based on what I said, and it's right here in the moment that you don't want to forget, then by all means, do that now. Give me about.
I'm not a pro on the QuickBooks, but I know I use my account to explain everything. But you mentioned that you can use it to kind of help set budgets. Is that just is that different tiers of the QuickBooks? Because I know there's different levels of QuickBooks that you can actually pay for the subscription.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, one of the things that like the subscription level that you would need to actually have what we call the budget feature in QuickBooks is a plus subscription. You'll need to have at least a plus level subscription to have that budget feature available. Okay. Now, that's not the only thing that you can use in QuickBooks to start kind of working out a budget. Even if you have a smaller subscription level, there's a cash flow management center inside of there, which allows you to create envelopes. You can kind of do a workaround inside of QuickBooks to use these envelopes so that you're constantly putting funds away in terms of like budgeting funds away in these little buckets to know where you stand, right? You can do that in QuickBooks as well without upgrading to another subscription. Okay? It is a workaround, not as great as having a budget built out, and it will serve the same purpose. Okay.
All right. I'm always looking for ways to kind of keep cutting costs. So yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Awesome. Good question, sir. Yeah, QuickBooks can be a lot to get into. And what I'm finding is like a lot of people get overwhelmed by it. Even people that I know who use it on a day-to-day basis, like professionals who use it on a day-to-day basis. They think they're going to go in there and break something or get lost in there like people get lost in the woods, and never come back. It's like, what do I do? Oh no. And it's like, to me, it's just all pretty simple and straightforward. And the thing that we really want to understand is at first is what are we looking to accomplish? That's with anything in life. We want to understand what is it that we're looking to accomplish. And then from there, we work that backward and make it work. However that looks, okay? The main thing with anything financial, like when we're checking business finances or any finances, is the integrity of the transaction. The integrity of the transaction, which basically means there's a certain way I treat a transaction on the atomic level. And if I do that time after time after time, then everything works for me. So the key is to establish what that transaction level integrity is going to look like for your business. And then you have the workflow and the structure to honor that each and every time. Otherwise, what you're experiencing when these things don't work is cancer for finances inside of whatever you're doing. And that's what you're experiencing if you're having any issues in that area. It is a cancer that's based on a transactional cell that is malignant. It just had no integrity to begin with, and now it's multiplied over time, and now you have a cancerous situation inside of your financial tracking and reporting. And I'm hoping that what I just said makes a whole lot of sense to you. But if you can get that with anything financial, it always comes down to the integrity of the transaction. How do I treat this specific transaction? You take that time up front to understand that, and then we do that over and over and over again. Then we have a healthy financial position, or healthy financial outlook, rather. We're looking at the truth. Otherwise, we won't be able to see the truths, called the organs of finance, right? So you have organs in your body. You have a heart, you have lungs, you have liver, pancreas, all these things that can have cancerous cells inside of them. And now they're unrecognizable because we've allowed a cancerous cell to grow and replicate, right? So it's not really the true thing, it's something else. That's how your finances will be if we don't manage the integrity of the transaction It'll be malignant, it'll grow, and it won't be the truth. Okay. But that's how we break it down most of the times. It comes down to that transactional level, and anything can be solved there. And I think people get scared because they don't understand that simplicity. Money comes from somewhere. It's the basic premise. Money comes from somewhere, and it goes somewhere. It's an it's an ever-flowing thing. You can see it. It's a story. It's a picture. It's a movie. It comes from somewhere. Okay, so you want to be able to see those things as they show up. Okay, so we're going to move on and complete on this retirement planning. Okay, so contributions. We talked about this like a little bit earlier on, but this is a strategy you want to be able to do to defer your income so that you're not overexposed to taxes. And really, if you don't have a system in place to do this, you want to get one in place as an entrepreneur. You want to make sure you're taking care of your future self. You're being kind and good to your future self in that respect, as well as being kind and generous to your present self in terms of tax reduction. Okay. That's the philosophy here. Defer that income through contribution. Now, depending on what type of qualified plan you use, is the rules that are engaged with that. And you want to understand those rules. Well, at least have somebody in your corner that does, that you can have these conversations with so that you can plan accordingly. Okay. All right. Tax strategy, guys. Yeah, so I believe this will be available, this call. Good questions. I see your question there, Charlene. This will be available inside of our, I know it's a video that we keep inside of our 10-figure business mastery group. So it'll be there. So if you're not a member of our 10-figure business mastery group, you want to find that on Facebook. That's facebook.com/groups/10, the number 10, not the word spelled out, but the number 10, and it's Figure Biz Mastery, Figure Biz Mastery, all one word, 10-figure biz mastery. Okay. And let me do this to make sure that we have it. I'll copy this and put it in the chat. All right, so if you're not already signed up on that, you want to get signed up on our 10-figure biz mastery. Okay. And to end this conversation, guys, the real thing that we want to take away from here is to master your deductions and your credits. That's what it comes down to. Everything we talked about tonight is really being a master of deductions. And we talked a little bit about mastering credits. Okay. A little bit with the hiring strategies. Okay. And we want to be able to do this for our businesses, and we want to do this for ourselves individually. Okay. Master your deductions and your credits. All right. Don't take this lightly. Like, really be on top of your business. We call this minding your own business. Make sure you are putting this as something that's in a high level of importance. Right. So a lot of times we do things, you have your quadrants here, right? And you want to do quadrant 2 stuff, urgent and not urgent, not urgent, but important, right? Important, but not urgent. That's what we want. These are what we want to do, these things. And this is one of those things that we do throughout the year. We master these areas, and therefore we are able to master our lives by mastering these areas. All right, with that being said, we are going to go ahead and to a Q&A. Any more questions for tonight that we want to ask? We spoke on a lot of things tonight in terms of tax strategy. Questions, comments, anything that you think specific to your business that you want to put out there and open before we wrap up tonight. Okay, good. I guess I did my job. Everybody's clear on everything I spoke about tonight. You guys are gonna be tax geniuses. Well, all right, people. We're gonna call it a wrap up. It's been good being with you tonight. Did a lot of monologuing, but hey.
Darlene raised her hand.
Yeah, you said who raised their hand? No, this is Charlene.
Darlene.
He's giving her applause there, so it was good.
Oh, okay.
But that's cool. Yeah, I get it. It's like there's a lot of information, and definitely it's worth rewatching if you can. Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. It's been great being with you, and I'll see you next week. Right? There's no holiday.
All right. Thank you, Cheston.
Yeah. Take care.
Great as always.
Thanks, Cheston. A lot of info, good info.
I got a great report regarding you last night during our impromptu call online last night.
You know, I saw that tonight. That after the fact, that you had invited people to an impromptu, and I didn't watch it yet. So it was an impromptu, is just like on the spot. It's like just right now we're having a meeting on things.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to do that every week so we can kind of start speaking with the members more. So we're gonna do it again this weekend. I'm gonna set it up and put a link in the chat so they'll have it. But it's still an impromptu, just having a little dialogue.
All right, fantastic, awesome.
But you had great reviews last night. 10 on 10 times 10.
Oh, thank you. That's good to hear.
Yeah. So.
Fantastic. Well, good. All right, guys. I will see you next week.
All right. Have a great one.
Y'all have a good time.